So like some days I feel fine, and then other days like it would just hit me, or I just like proper connect with it, like what actually kind of happened and the enormity of it, and I would just feel really sad and just a bit helpless. We had a pretty reasonable upbringing, and then, you know, a lot of the issues that start to become a bit more apparent as you go into secondary school. It's a difficult transition for most young people, you know, who you are and thinking about identity and friendship groups and wanting to fit in and being popular. I eventually got excluded from school. I was diagnosed eventually as well with ADHD and dyslexia, and I used those diagnoses as an excuse to not apply myself in school. I've got ADHD, so that means I can't pay attention in class. Because I didn't belong in school, I didn't have healthy relationships in my community and attachments, and I found belonging in friendship groups who were going through the same thing as me. Had low aspirations career-wise, didn't have any positive male role models, resorted to the narrative that selling drugs, committing crime, being in a gang is the only option for you. I didn't want to really become a master organised criminal, but at the same time, I didn't believe that I could fit into mainstream society. And then, you know, as I then become old enough to go on nights out and consume alcohol legally, all those frustrations that were pinned underneath from those experiences being a teenager all start to come out when I was under the influence of alcohol. Inevitably, you keep going on nights out, you keep abusing alcohol, you keep fighting, something's going to go wrong. So unfortunately, in 2011, I went on a night out to celebrate a friend's birthday. And, you know, typical night out, we were all going out, all had far too much to drink. And I got a phone call at the end of the night. Me and my friends had been separated. And got a phone call saying, Jacob, something's kicking off. Obviously, me being the person that I was, it was like, where are you? I'm coming down. You know what I mean? I'm going to like back you, whatever. I think it was about 2 o'clock at night when all the bars were starting to close. Saw my friend in another person's face. To me, it seemed like they were squaring off, but it was probably knowing my friends, it was, you know, more than likely the case that they were being the aggressor. And then I ran in and threw a punch towards this person that my friend was squaring off with. And then this guy, he fell over and I ran away, instantly ran away. I thought something wasn't right, but I didn't think anything of it because we've seen so many fights in the past, and everybody gets up. And I went away, and the next day my friends came round to my house the next morning and they were like, oh, Jacob, one punch, you knocked that guy out, big up you. And I almost felt proud of, like, they were like rubbing my ego. Weeks went by. I didn't know what was going on. And then I heard from my friends, the police are raiding everybody. And I was like, well, what for? And my friend was like, I think it might be to do with that night you punched that person. I was like, well, that was over a month ago. I ran out of the house, scared that the police were going to come for me. And eventually they did, and they went to my mum's house, and they rang me off my mum's phone. So I saw my mum's phone ring in. I picked up the phone. Hi, Jacob. We're following up on an investigation. Can you come hand yourself in? So I went and handed myself in. I wasn't a career criminal. I wasn't, financially able to go on the run or do, what you see in these TV dramas. Then it was confirmed for definite that I was being arrested for murder, and that the punch that I had thrown a month previously had led to the death of that man. And I was just in complete disbelief, shock, panic, self-pity. I was like, what? How's this happened to me? And then all these other thoughts that go through your head. Oh my God, have I ruined my life? Am I going to be in prison for 20 years? You know, and then I'm thinking, what about my mum? How am I going to tell my mum that who I've just been on holiday with, that I've been arrested for murder? You know, I've let her down. I've let myself down. And that was the first time I actually realised that I did have some aspirations to like become something. Even if it was just like a decent 9 to 5, you know. But I just never believed it was a possibility. I remember going in the court for sentencing, and I was just looking at the floor, and then the prison guards picked me up, walked me down to the holding cell, ready to go to prison. And I was like, how long have I got? Didn't even know what had happened. I was just like completely out of it. Murder got dropped to manslaughter because it was a single punch. There was no intent for that to happen. So I come out of prison much worse than I went into prison, just in my mentality, because I used to tell the people in there, oh, I threw a single punch and somebody passed away. And they go, oh, how unlucky is that? Not, you know, no, don't challenge me. So, oh, how unlucky is that? And reinforcing that kind of mentality of, oh, you know, I am, you know, hard done by, I am unfortunate. And I was speaking to my probation officer, you know, I think it was about 2 months after I came out of prison. I went to go see her, and she said, oh, have you ever heard of restorative justice? And I said, no, what's that? And she said, well, it's where the people who've been impacted meet the people who have harmed them in a criminal sense. And so the parents of the man that you punched want to meet you and speak to you and ask you some questions. And I was like, I'd never thought, well, I had thought of them, but I had always pushed it out of my mind. And I realised that I didn't want to take accountability for that because it was too difficult to even try and think about the harm that I caused. And that came across as me being obnoxious, arrogant, rude. So I agreed to take part in that process. And I was absolutely privileged to hear some of the most awful things I've ever heard. Because I needed to hear that. I needed to hear that, what it was like for them to have to turn off the life support machine, what it was like for them to get that news, to say goodbye, to tell me about who their son was and what kind of person he was, what kind of values he had, what kind of aspirations he had. We continued to talk to each other, and I asked all their questions. It was like, what actually happened on that night out? And I said, I don't actually know what happened. I just got a phone call and I threw a punch for no reason. And once the police did all their investigations, they found out that my mates had took some fancy dress items that were on the side of a bar, pirate hats and other fancy dress items that belonged to someone else, put them on, and when the nightclub finished, they walked out with this stuff on. And then they were politely asked, that's our stuff, can we have it back? And then my friends, being the friends that they are, or were, just were like, no, you're not having it back, because they were looking for confrontation, they were looking for trouble. And then had the audacity to ring me and say, we need help here, even though there was nothing even going on. As far as I'm aware, no one was being violent towards them. And I came down and threw a punch. I didn't say, what's this even about? Why are you guys starting fights for? Basically, why are you being bullies? And that's something that I have to live with. The guilt of knowing that I threw a punch for no reason, or not that, you know, even if there was a reason or an excuse, it wouldn't have been good enough. It's always better to walk away, everyone to go home safe. And that's what I have to, that's the real punishment. The punishment for me wasn't prison. Taking part in restorative justice, hearing the impact of my offence was the real punishment, because I have to live with that guilt on a daily basis. And
is that the truth of it? Like you're saying about you living with it every day. What are the kind of like scenarios where you just think about it? Like what is that generally? How does that look like?
If I see confrontation or a fight, like, it just goes from, like, naturally it's just going to go through my head. So I go on a night out with my friends or whatever now and see a fight, it's like triggering, to say the least. If I hear news stories or just stuff generally in violence, or now I have children of my own, I just dread that something, I don't know what you call it from a psychological point of view, but just the dread of anything ever happening to my children, or feeling as if like karma's gonna get me at some point. And then just like different phases of it. So like some days I feel fine, obviously, and then other days like it would just hit me that like or I just like proper connect with it, like what actually kind of happened and the enormity of it, and I would just feel really sad and just a bit helpless. That I couldn't change it. I can't repair the harm. I also use it as a motivator. I use it as like, I'm still here, I've got to make the most of this, I've got to raise awareness, I've got to set, not just all about, raising awareness of this issue, but just on a day-to-day, just being really grateful for having my health, really grateful for the relationships that I have in my life, really grateful for how far I've come in terms of just the perspective that I have on life now, and just like gratitude all round, just for the little things, just being able to have a coffee and, listen to the birds, or, see someone having a nice time, or, just the little things in life that kind of give me joy now, and supporting other people to make those transitions away from those harmful behaviours, and supporting people to make better decisions and to have better relationships with themselves. If we can kind of challenge people to realise that, they're not actually happy, and if they remain like that, they're going to continue hurting themselves and they're going to continue hurting other people, and it's okay to talk. It's okay to talk about your problems. It's okay to try and seek out help. You haven't got to suffer alone, and suffering alone and hurting other people and being angry and being aggressive, it's tiring. And from the conversations I had with the victims, they want me to make the most of my life. They don't want me continuing on the path I was on, being unhappy, hurting other people. And the other thing that they mentioned is that their son was the type of person who would want something positive to have come from this. And so I've got to honour that. And although I have days where I feel shameful, guilty, and isolated and lonely, that's, one thing that keeps me going, is to honour their wishes. And so, it's been over 10 years. 2011 this happened. I came out of prison 2013, so it's been 10 years since I've been out of prison. In that time, re-educated myself, did my GCSEs, did A-levels, I did a criminology degree. I've worked as so many different arenas, in schools, in prisons, local authorities, And then now we're starting to move more into the arts as a way of kind of trying to change the culture. So I wrote the book about my experiences and the broader issues that we've touched on a little bit today, and then that book is now being transferred into stage with a play called Punch.
So all that is really important, and like to progress like the kind of like attitude of people generally. My question is like, even I feel it's still in my friendship groups, how do you actually overcome that like that pride issue?
What's more important, I guess? Is it more important that you kind of watch people be misogynistic and keep your mates on side, or watch your mates getting into fights, risking themselves getting killed or killing someone else, or getting seriously hurt, going to prison? It's like, if you really care about your friend and they're doing things that are putting them at risk, then are you really a friend if you don't challenge them? If you've got your friend's best interest at heart, you'll challenge them. And you'll say, look, this isn't okay, I care about you. If you've got nobody challenging you in your friendship group, you've got a pretty crappy friendship group.
I feel like that still happens so much though.
It does happen so much because we're uncomfortable with progressing, and we're uncomfortable with seeming to be the odd one out. But in reality, you know, probably more of you agree than don't. I had to massively change up my friendship group. I still have some old ones that have changed their values, but but the journey I've been on has been very lonely. What I started saying to my friends now is, if you want me to have your back, let me know if you need a chat. If you want me to have your back, let me know if you need help writing a CV. Let me know if you need help with a job application. There's someone on a night out tonight that is going to potentially get into a fight. Is potentially going to be in a scenario where typically he might think he needs to start fighting. Someone spilled a drink on him. Someone stepped on his trainers. Someone's spoke to his girl. You don't have to prove yourself. Getting into a fight isn't going to actually resolve the problem. It's going to escalate the problem. Everybody's got a choice. You know, either you throw a punch or you don't throw a punch. You've got a choice. Somebody has insulted you, somebody has done something to upset you. You're more powerful and in control if you take the choice to resolve it and not escalate it. And so if your friend and your mate is looking to escalate something, help him resolve it. Because we're all on a day-to-day basis or on these nights out jeopardising it the lot. It's like Russian roulette over stupid little things that don't even really matter. What matters is going home to your kids, to your family, to see your mum again, staying out of prison, keeping your job. And I know people don't think about it in the moment, but somebody has got to think about it. Whether it's you or your friends. Try to resolve it. Try to be a good friend.